Styrene is an incredible material, and recently I made a couple of models using just this wonderful plastic. In each of those videos I shared some interesting ideas, but in this one I'll dive deep and show each technique in great detail. Welcome to Cut, Transform, Glue. Most of my styrene, to not say all of it, is reclaimed. You can tell by the artwork that is printed on them. Here in my city, it is commonly used to make all types of signs on stores and shopping malls, and I usually find mine inside dumpsters when I go groupie hunting. You can of course always buy styrene online, but maybe take a look around and see what you can get for free, depending on where you live, of course. And here's what I love about styrene. It is pretty easy to work with. Cutting it couldn't be quicker. You just need to scar the surface with a blade and snap it in half. Yeah, it's that easy. And even when you're working with thicker sheets like 2 or 3 millimeters, it only takes a couple of passes with your snap or the X-Acto knife and you're done. It is amazing. Now, of course, some tools can help with that breaking process and make it even easier and more precise. So stick to the end of the video and I'll show you how to build one. Now, sometimes when you break the cut, you end up with an angle right at the edge, and this could be a problem. But it being as soft as it is, making that angle straight again is not a big deal. I like to just grab a metal roller and rub it against the edge, removing the imperfections and making that cut perfectly square again, almost as if you're working with wood and using a hand planer. Now you can use this technique not only to make the edge perfectly square, but also to put an angle on it and to achieve that sci-fi look we all love. And again, this is only possible because it is very soft, much softer than acrylic for instance. All that softness allows you to make some bigger changes and remove more material using some very simple tools. For instance, here I'm making a rectangular slot for the door handle on the K-truck, and right here I'm making the panel lines for the door on the same process, again using some very simple tools. These are some very basic nail salon tools, very cheap stuff. I have this one right here that I use for wider gaps. As you can see, it has that large square face that I of course keep sharp. And I also have this one that I use a lot in my projects with a V-shaped tip. Using them is very simple. You first need a guideline that I usually make with an X-Acto knife, but in this case I'm using an acrylic square. And you want to keep an even pressure all across the cut. Sometimes I like to do that process after a coat of primer, so I'm able to see the change on the surface of the model. Using the V-shaped one is even easier, especially on flat surfaces. The result is very good looking and can be achieved in just a couple of minutes, and it works on other types of plastic as well. I just did that on the Dragonfly project. It was a much harder type of plastic, so I had to make a guideline with a couple of passes of an X-Acto knife, but the result was just as good. Now, what if I told you that you can make this tool for yourself for very cheap and that you probably already have what's needed on your house? Yeah, a simple flathead screwdriver. You just have to make the edge as perfectly square as possible, like I'm doing right here. And then you just gotta sharpen the sides a bit. See, styrene is very resistant but very soft, and any sharp tool can make a line on it. You don't need expensive model making tools, not saying those aren't useful, but yeah, you can work with what you have, which is what I do around here. So yeah, maybe go look around and see what old metal things you can turn into some great model making tools. The sky is the limit. Speaking of being creative, this is the tool I made to break this styrene. That idea came to my mind when I noticed that cuts close to the edge were especially hard to break. And making one is very easy, just follow along. At first you're gonna need some hardwood. And then you're gonna cut it on 2 pieces of the same size. Then you're gonna need to add some spacers. Right here I'm using some pieces of 3mm styrene. I want to be able to use this tool for 1, 2, and 3mm pieces. Right here I'm making some sanding to make sure everything is at the same level. Then I glued the top piece using CA glue. And then to make sure everything will stay in place, I wanted to add a couple of screws on each side. And as simple as that, you have yourself a styrene breaker. That'll make your life much easier if you're planning on making some proper scratch building projects. Let me know in the comments if you like this type of content where I share with you some of my techniques on smaller tutorials. And please consider supporting me on Patreon and make sure I can keep going with this channel. The link will be in the description box. And as always, thanks for watching.